Okay, so I listened to Jason Estes yesterday, and he said that 80% of humanity is ascending. The inverted forces are not, of course, and then I explained in my previous video cutoff points how even those that won't be able to ascend their bodies, and then if they can't ascend their bodies this time, it is it can still be in their soul's path to ascend, and they can still come and reincarnate. And they will go higher, and definitely they will go higher unless they're part of the inverted team. However, whether they will go with Earth as it stations in the next higher dimension is not clear, but 80% will, and that's huge. And all it takes in order for the planet to be able to ascend would be 20%. 20% of its inhabitants being able to run the currents fully in their bodies from the next higher dimension. And it may seem strange also, why do we always talk about the fifth dimension? Even though we're coming from inverted 3D, I mean, isn't there something in between? Yes, and there is, and I've talked about that in the video. Excuse me. Time cutoff points, and that's the bridge. So because we're coming from the tail end, and we're coming like from the tip of the iceberg that was in the inversion of the 3D, the densest of the dense that this planet was able and also willing to go. And now we're moving back into 5D where it came from, because it was in 5D before, and it was even much higher than that before. But from 5D, then the fall began into all the way through into the inversion. And also, as I understand it, 4D is not a place of stationary. 4D is a different realm. I can't completely explain it, but I also understand that when we sleep at night, that then we we're dreaming that we are in 4D, and there's the lower 4D, the astral plane. There is the lower astral plane that is, like kind of a hell realm. It's yeah, like in the movie What Dreams May Come, when she's stuck in that place. And it's also an in-between place. This is what I've been hearing, and my information that I got is that it's also an in-between place, a transitional place after we leave our bodies, also in the 4D. So, but that part, exactly how it works, I don't understand, but it feels right that we're going into 5D, and that has a very, very solid, like specifically solid, whereas 4D doesn't, feeling. And I've also been there in my dreams, and so that's exciting that 80% of humanity is taking their bodies into the 5D. And the splitting image, not the spitting image, the splitting image, the splitting of the planets really is, this is my understanding, and it's not so much understanding, like it's not about something I learned. I'm getting all this information, and this is how it resonates with me. And so because there's not going to be, that is what it means for a planet to ascend. It means that there's not going to be a lower vibrational version of it. It is healing completely. It is taking its body into a higher dimension. It is not taking, its spirit or its soul consciousness into a, yes, of course, but it's taking its body. This is the physical. That's why we use that. That's what that word stands for, is physical ascension, which at the same time also is an embodiment of soul. And that's what they call the descension. It is, but it's not really a descension of the soul, because the soul doesn't get denser. It simply embodies more, but it doesn't go lower in consciousness. It stays in consciousness, even though, okay, we have the multidimensional consciousness, and that goes throughout all dimensions, all the way back to God's source, to the source of all souls, of all light. And it is how much light and consciousness can the body hold, how conscious and aware can we be in the vessel, in this physical vessel that was born and created in the inverted 3D, in that kind of a density. So we're taking that up, and that means that the bottom is leveling up. The lowest frequency that this earth holds is going to be, and there are the cutoff points that I talked about. Now, of course, this may be changing the whole time. Those cutoff points may not be, they may be shorter. It may not take that long anymore, because that's the other thing that is happening, is that it is constantly shifting. It is constantly, the framework is shifting. However, at the same time, what I'm noticing is that what is shifting is, it's not shifting into anymore. Oh, we didn't make that. It's going to take longer. We had that in the past. But now what I'm getting is that, and this is like exponential, this is happening the whole time. It's like, oh, it's happening sooner. Or, oh, these energies are coming in. Or, oh, wow, these energies are coming in. It's like, it's what is happening now is it's opening up, and that also of course makes sense, and we're going to talk about also the solar flash works into that. It makes sense that we're going up gradually, but then there's at some point there is this spike, there is this quantum leap. And that means that the lowest frequency now is stationed higher. And this is what it means, that the bottom, the ground floor is coming up. And what that also feels like is that the ceiling is coming down. Because the ceiling remains. The ceiling is there. That is where frequentially 3D ends. And we're first going to move through, we're moving into and through organic 3D and 4D. But every, from inverted 3D into organic 3D, there is no ceiling. It's still within the magnetic threshold, the bandwidth of 3D. But then when we move, for example, into 4D, there is a magnetic field between the dimensions that it keeps the dimensions separate in a sense. It keeps them for themselves, because each dimension, it's like a whole new game. It's a whole new set of game. All the principles always stay the same, but how should I explain this? What there's a meaning, there's a perspective of something from the 3D, and you go into a higher dimension and you see a completely different perspective. And at first, when you're in that dimension, is it a perspective that you can get and that you really can inhabit? And it doesn't seem like a weird dream that you cannot make sense of and you cannot put into words. So as we are going into 5D, where Earth is going to be stationary, and that doesn't mean that, you know, we can go higher than 5D because it's open. It's like it's now the possibility to go higher and higher we're back aligned. The currents are flowing again. We're not cut off anymore, and you know that's available to us now. Yet at the same time, for all the aspects within us that are still running the currents and in the dream and in that consciousness of inverted 3D, of course, that comes up first, but then also organic 3D, where there is a certain amount of division and a certain amount of, this is all percentage wise, of identification as an image and not the actual beingness that is the soul streaming through its neutrality, through the heart, through the 0 point, within alignment to source. So as the floor is leveling up, leveling up, leveling up, the ceiling is coming closer and closer. It's like it's coming down. For all those aspects of us, for all those identities of us, and the emotional landscape that is that they feel like. And those aspects, they're, you know, that are anyways running a current that has more inversion, that has more fear in it. Because fear is not the opposite of love. Fear is the inversion of love. Love doesn't have any opposites, just like neutrality doesn't have any opposites. So for those aspects of us, the ceiling is coming down, and it gets dramatic. The anxiety is up because it feels like, oh my gosh, we're getting crushed. And I've had a lot of dreams like that where the ceiling was coming down, and you know, and it was the similar kind of, you know, fear that came up, like the tsunami dreams. I had many tsunami dreams, and now I don't have them any. I haven't had these dreams in a long time. I mean, maybe over a year, at least over a year, maybe not, maybe even more, maybe over 2 years. I haven't had these dreams anymore, but still, I've had a lot of the tsunami and the ceiling coming down dreams. And so, yeah, so all our fears are coming up, and we will play them out until they exhaust themselves, and as the consciousness shifts, as the consciousness becomes aware that, oh, okay, this is an energy within me, and it is believing this story, it is believing this about me, but there's already so much more awareness within me that can tell that it's not the actual story, it's not what this energy is projecting onto that is causing me to feel this way. It is simply that this is within me, stored, and it's being triggered on its way out. Yeah. And so the split earth, this image of the split earth, there's not going to be, because the bottom is coming up, the lowest density is going to be in 5D. There's not going to be a lower physical earth anymore. And so that now it makes, complete sense that anyone who cannot hold, embody, so they cannot hold a body of 5D, that means they cannot embody their consciousness that is at the vibration of the frequency of the fifth dimension. And that is a level of, that is much less duality within them, and it is, and all the, the traumas, the wounds, the fears, we cannot, they cannot move through that layer. They cannot move at some point they get stuck in the ceiling and they get crushed. And so either what happens is healing, that the energies get, what is really happening, it's not about releasing anything. We can't release anything that is within us. The release is a release back into our system, because it's a fractal of our system that is holding itself apart in fear, that is running the current and the code of an image of ourselves that is not in harmony with our true self, that is not in harmony with the soul consciousness, the real true beingness, the aliveness that is here. It's too tight, and it's too separate from source. It's not aligned with source. It's not aligned with that song, with that rhythm, with that natural beingness. It's distorted. And so either what's going to happen is that we can hold space for that. Our being can hold, just simply feel these emotions and hold space for it. And then they can come undone. The distortion can come undone, and all that energy can reintegrate. And that is also soul fractal retrieval. We retrieve our energy back. It's now, we retrieve that aspect of our soul back, and it's running in the natural currents again. If that is not possible to do that, then these currents will create a physical illness, and eventually, depending on what is in the soul, what is in the soul's path, what is in the soul's timing and natural progression, perhaps it will cause the body to break down. But only if that's on the soul's path anyways, if that's what is meant to be. Because otherwise there will be, there are so many ways, so many ways, depending on, what resonates with one's mind, how to reintegrate these energies to help. It's the ways that show up. And it doesn't matter. For some people, it's a doctor in an allopathic doctor in a white coat with a stethoscope. That's what they believe in, and that's what will bring that healing to them, if that's how their mind works. It really depends on how one's mind works. Yeah. Also, that is also, for example, a 3D belief. I don't know if it's maybe even still inverted 3D belief of seeing it, but this is how we were taught. This is how we grew, the matrix that we grew up in, is that to believe that something could kill us, something could or it is the through an accident or through some kind of a illness, or also a treatment, and you know what I'm talking about now, like some kind of um, even poisons, from the pollution and the pollution around us, um, or that we got into our bodies, that are the cause of death. When the cause of death is always because it's the soul's time to go. There is not this kind of thing that the soul had a different plan and it didn't want to go, and but then the body got poisoned and so it couldn't make the ascension or something like that, and that there would be that kind of possibility or that kind of stake. And this can be seen, this is like known from a higher consciousness, from a broader consciousness perspective. When soul is more embodied, this is like there comes this relaxation, this peace, because you can see, oh wow, it's all perfect, it's all this perfect divine orchestration. So even if someone it seemingly dies of a certain cause, then it was chosen on the soul's level to take that path and to have that experience. And even though on the level of the story, it can very much be that they got killed, and that there actually was either some kind of a matter that came, into the body and shut down the body, or another person that came and killed that person. And on the level of the story, that, you have perpetrator and victim. That exists. But where we're moving into is that level of soul embodiment, where you can see that how this was all orchestrated by your higher consciousness to have this very certain experience. And it's about a higher integration of self. It's about which brings about an expansion, a huge expansion of self, when this can be known and seen. And that is so beautiful. The expansion of the heart, that's what it's all about, Us actually becoming like what we call angels, us becoming what we have prayed to for help, for example, and this path that we're going through is the path of embodying that kind of beingness, that kind of capacity to love, to see the truth, to embody the truth, to create from that place of knowingness and awareness and love. Yeah. So the split earth, there's not going to be another earth, that stays behind, another actual planet that where there's a version of earth that is vibrating lower. That's not what the ascension is. And the splitting is, and what they call, there is also this concept, or this catchword, the harvest and the purge. And that is what the harvest is, all those that are going, and it's 80%. That's really awesome. And And those that are not going, that's just part of the whole game as well. That's part of the whole um, experience and story as well. But to think that it's only 20%, and this has nothing to do with the story on the on our stage. That that has nothing to do with that. And you know, even if the story on the stage, even if a lot of people may get sick or so, but every illness that we have brings our attention back to us, you know, and it always expands our horizon. It always about ourselves. So within the horizon, within it expands our consciousness and always brings us back to the heart. Every illness. In other words, every illness is a teacher. Every disease is a teacher. And the wounded healer. So that's also a natural part of the progression of the ascension. Is are the ailments on the way. And also think about a little tangent here while we're at it, while we're in this process, because we're also very engaged the story is very loud on the stage, especially now. I'm thinking about there is a split. Okay, there seems to be it's not physical, but there seems to be a split. And also, this is what Franco de Nicola talked about, that I talked about in my video cutoff points, that there are, we are experiencing also a split within, within our, on the planet, between people. There seems to be like this clear, almost like a divide of two groups. The group that is aware or has become aware or is becoming aware of the inverted system that has been running the planet, and the group that still believes in the inverted system as or believes what the narrative of the inverted system, let's put it that way. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, and there's a clear split between these two, but that has nothing to do, I just want to say, this has nothing to do with the 80% that are going with that split. It has nothing to do with that. And as Franco described it, it's oh, and by the way, yes, this all comes together and makes sense. The 80%, they're all not all going at once. This is going to be waves. There's going to be the first wave and the second wave and the third wave, and every wave is making it easier for the next one, for the next one, for the next one. And this is also, we came in here to be either part of the first, the second, the third wave, and it's not like, okay, now comes the first wave, okay, now comes the second wave, it's like this organic process. But there are those on the forefront, and then there are those maybe in the back that are ascending, and they're still what we call fast asleep, still believe. It actually has nothing to do with whether it actually has nothing to do with the belief system of how you see the world, or how you see, how do you look at the world stage? Like, do you believe in the narrative of the inverted matrix, of the inverted system, and of the inverting and inverted controllers? Or are you, aware of that to a certain degree, at least, that oh, okay, this is a mirage, this is what a controlling system has wanted us to believe in order to be able to take our energy. and to live off of our energy. Whichever perspective you look at that from, you could I'm just talking about the principles here, but it's like the arc of the story, and then you can fit all all the stories in there, be it political, financial, architectural, whatever. It is within all the areas of life and of the system where the belief has been inverted. So, but what matters, that's the only thing that matters, is the heart. Is are how, okay, it doesn't matter what we believe, whether we ascend or not, whether our bodies are going to be able to ascend or not. It doesn't matter whether we have bought in, whether we're still buying into the inversion narrative and are drinking their Kool-Aid. you know um, that's also a path into it's also a path to come closer to oneself, for some, for many maybe. But what really matters is the heart, and that means, are you a good person? And most people are, and most people, it's just the programs that are in the way, that where they are unconscious. That's with all of us, it's just in different degrees. And these programs are come undone, and they're coming to the surface, and that is the purge. That is what that means, the purge. That is the bottom going up, the ceiling seemingly coming down, and all those programs screaming louder and louder as they are triggered, and as they are this is something that we've been pushing down, because that is the natural way of doing it. We hold it down until the time is right, that we can, that we have space for it, and then it gets triggered, so that we can bring a little bit again back home from that energy that was in the reverse. And this is happening now, quite intensely. And it's only going to get more intense, even though we're never given more than we can handle. Yeah. So even though that is a very experiential split, where we can't, it's hard to keep a relationship. It's maybe even impossible to keep a relationship anymore, because it's such a fundamental split between those that are still believing in the inverted narrative and those that have woken up to the inverted narrative. They may not, be aware of themselves as a soul. They may not have that awareness consciously, but it's still happening. You don't have to, you don't have to be aware of it and be able to put it into words in order for it to happen, because how it happens is simply through the heart. It simply happens through the heart opening and becoming more alive and becoming more peaceful, even though in order to get there or feel that, we have to go through all that which is inverted and divided within us, all that is not us. All that where we believe we are an image of ourselves, an image not even of ourselves, an image that has been formed by the conditioned mind of ourselves, and that is rooted in the separation from God, the separation from life, the separation from our soul. There is not a conscious awareness of that I am soul. And because that is not supported anymore energetically, as the planet completely itself is rising up, as it is embodying these higher codes, these faster frequencies, that are coming in. You know, the data points that Jason talks about, which is how much code that is coming in are we capable, does our system have to process? It's like a processor. And the way to process this is not the mind, it's the heart. Because that is that neutrality, that's that 0 point where it's all inclusive, where we are wide open and not afraid of ourselves. And we recognize that what is coming up is an energy within ourselves. It's not about what is happening in the story around us, in the situation. It's not about the situation, even though, of course, the conditioned mind is, and the egoic mind, which is that image of oneself mind that is separate from life, completely believes that, and feels like it is that victim within that, that like it is at stake, at the mercy of the situation, and that the situation is what is happening is bad, is something that is bad happening to you. When, even though it seems that way, in actuality, it is the soul orchestrating. It is also an expression, a reflection on the outside of what you feel on the inside. So now you're in the middle of it again, and it's triggered, and it is orchestrated, but it's also the natural, how water runs down a hill kind of thing, progression. In order to bring those energies back home, we have to feel them. They have to be triggered. We got to move through them in order to bring them back. And that is this wide open heart. That is the heart that is more and more and more open. And so this split between those, the two that I was just mentioning, actually is that great opportunity and that great opportunity, I already said opportunity, yes, that really aids us to come back into the heart and not to relate to one another over our stories and over our minds. But there we notice with some people, oh my God, I can't relate to them anymore. They're in a different world, and it's like we just trigger each other's egos. But I love that person, so how do we have a relationship? Now it can be that it's simply not, for the time being, who knows how long, it's just not in front of us. It's just not meant to be that we actually entertain, support a relationship with that person anymore. However, still, even if that's the case, we don't have to close our hearts to them. And that's the beauty, is that it gives us an opportunity to take the other as they are and love them, and keep our hearts open to them. And that will bring us more back into the heart, more into an exclusiveness, more into a tolerance and accepting of someone who believes different. What matters is, are they a good person? What matters is their actions. How do they treat you? And yeah, that's all that matters. Okay. The harvest, the purge. Ah, yes. And then I wanted to read to you what Judith Kusel posted on June 18th. So that was 2 days ago. This is another update. The Holy Sacred Trinity has returned. Divine Mother, the Holy Shekinah, and Holy Sophia. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is, but I'm just reading it. For the first time since the fall of Atlantis. This is momentous. I have no words. Just tears of gratitude as divine love, divine illumination, divine wisdom are pouring in. and so forth. I just wanted to mention that because I definitely believe that this is what happened. I totally resonate with Judith. And so another momentous, oh, where's the camera? Here. Another momentous happening. The Holy Trinity has returned. And also what I wanted to share, I think, is that the last thing that I'm going to share now. Yeah, I've been watching this Keylontic Sciences, and that was one perspective of what was going on. And in any case, what I realized was there are so many perspectives of, it's kind of dark, isn't it? There are so many perspectives of what is going on and how to find what, and a lot of it, it sounds true. And how to find, well, what is really happening? What is really happening, And my higher self, when I go within, always points me back to, it doesn't matter what other people think what is happening. It is what do you feel is happening? And does this information that is coming into your field, how does it come together for you? What do you resonate with? And there's like a red thread going through, all the information that we get. And one thing that has been continuously coming up for me is that, and this only makes also total sense to me, is that we didn't know what it was going to be like, the ascension. And it's not like, it's all planned out. Even though it was clear, okay, around the time 2012 of our calendar, and even though we do have the celestial bodies moving around in the universe, and they're all on a certain timeline, they're all on on some kind of a elliptical course, and it takes this long for them to reach that point and this long to reach that point. So there is a clock, there is an order there, even though the time will depend on the perspective that you're looking at it from, because it depends on time vantage point, obviously. But then in one time vantage point, like on Earth, you can, these are the maps, and that's why we knew, okay, this is coming, this is happening at that point. There's going to be, we're coming back into the light. But as we're in it, how it is unfolding, of course, we cannot know. And even though there are, from the point that we stand, just as Franco de Nicola did, he saw these, and there was also a planning of, because there's so, all the, oops, oh my goodness, this is clean, but I'm sweating. But I do have 2 holes. Okay, so I have to keep my arms down. Yes, so it is being orchestrated, throughout all the dimensions down here, how, this time and this ascension. And so he could say, oh, these are the cutoff points coming. And at the same time, as we are going, and he also said that now there is no more this linear, timeline. It is, we're all, it's moment to moment to moment to moment where this is shifting. We're making this up, moment to moment to moment. And he also said, and I said this in the previous video, about that until we station in 5D, until that is, and he said that would be around 2035, that everyone would be running full current 5D currents. And then, on Earth, because nothing lower would be possible anymore, or it would instantly turn into like a terrible illness or a physical illness that would then have to be healed, and then the energetic conscious part of it would also be healed, you know. But that would go very fast because no lower frequency than the lowest within the 5D would be supported anymore. And so he said from now until then there would be it would be like a patchwork, that it would be more and more and more these locations that would be faster ascending, let's say first wave ascending, you know, and then they would set themselves apart from the locations that would be like the tail end, and maybe even those that are not ascending and staying as dense as they can until it collapses onto itself, until that floor has come all the way through the ceiling, you know, and then there's no more of that. And then he also, and this is also interesting, is that there's going to be these groups of people, like the first, they're in the first waves, and they're going straight, you know, straight to 5D, and then there's going to be those groups of people that they surf it out, you know, they're going to roll it out and all the way through the organic 3D until that's cut off. I don't have that in my head when organic 3D will be. I don't remember. That was not the part, not what I wanted to talk about today, because I already talked about that. But it was before 2035. I'm not sure. Anyways, yes, and so these two groups, and that could be that it also has to do with maybe those that are still believing in the narrative and those that have um, woken up to the narrative, but I don't really think that it has to do with that. I think that maybe the tendency will be that the ones riding out the organic 3D may still veer more towards believing in the inverted, but you know what's also going to happen is that's also going to be leveling up. The narrative is going to be leveling up as the lies are getting exposed, you know, as that agenda is getting exposed, you know. So in that time, it could be that there's also continuously a split between these groups, but it's going to be, and there will, first of all, there will be corridors, and you know, it also has to do with magnetism. Then it will be difficult to hold relationships between the two, but there will be these corridors between them where that is possible. Um, and then at some point, when the 3D is not supported anymore, and then 4D comes online, then there's a merging again taking place. So it really seems like there are different, you know, there's a split in the timeline, but only until the timelines come back together and everyone on Earth, because the whole Earth is stationed in 5D, everyone comes back together on one timeline. It's just that on the way there, there's going to be big differences. There's going to be, you know, the first wavers in the cutting edge, and they're going maybe even right up to 70 or something. And then there's going to be those that are riding out the organic until the last second, and then they switch. And between them, between these, you know, there's almost like a magnetic repulsion zone. But that's not, you know, that's not the splitting of the earth, and they're coming back together. And it's not the belief systems, it's the heart. It's how open your heart can be. And you know, the heart open, it always has to do with how much one can love themselves. And this has nothing to do with narcissism. You know, it's the opposite. Because the narcissist doesn't love himself or herself. The narcissist is completely in an image of themselves. So they live out of an illusion, out of an image of themselves, and that is what they venerate above all, and their hearts are not open because they don't care about others. They only care about that image of themselves, but they don't care about themselves. They don't love themselves because they don't even know who they truly are. They're so detached. You know, they're so unconscious about their soul. They're so unconscious about their being. Just wanted to throw that in there. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, because I mentioned it, so it is 2035. What Franco said was the cutoff point for 3D. And it is 2022, the end of this year, where all inverted 3D is purged, not out of our system, but or purged. It's not running anymore. It's not being, it doesn't have a platform anymore. Okay, so maybe purged. Yeah, I'm not sure. But inverted 3D energy or platform or space where inverted 3D can operate, can behold, can stand, is supposedly then no longer in 2023. We're moving into organic 3D. And about these kind of like prophecies and time cutoff points, you know, he said it himself, and it's what I'm getting from everyone really is that is this moment to moment, and everything is shifting, which is why kind of all these prophecies and you know, they're also shifting. They're also becoming fluid, and they're not like cut in stone, set in stone any longer. But what I have been getting, I mentioned it before, but I'm going to say it again, is that even though it's all fluid and it may change and um, be different than what we thought, but but it's not that we go backwards. It's not that we're going to hit the brakes anymore. And that it's going to, oh, okay, we're going to do a couple more rounds in inverted 3D after all, or oh, we're going to stay longer in organic 3D than 2035 after all. What I really got is that that is the absolute end of it. And other than that, you know, anything can happen within that time. And you know, new stories, new players, all of that. It's like opening that, and that is the what it looks like when we are passing the threshold into another dimension. And you see what is also what is this with stationary and five? What's the difference, you know? So first, what it is that aspects of us is phasing in and then back out, in and back out. So aspects of us are already running the higher currents. And you can imagine it this way, like we're this highly complex system that is running energy currents, that is light, that is consciousness, and code at the same time. And then the physical body is, depending on, you know, where it's at, able to run that code or not able to run that code. And then, however, coming up to par, going through the process of the purge, coming up to par to be able to run that code. And that's a process. And that is what the planet is supporting. And that is why the soul is here. And I always lose my thread in between. So, yeah. Yeah, so as we are in this transition, huge transition, what we thought it was going to be like, and what we thought, oh, this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to unfold, and then we find ourselves meeting a whole new reality, another whole new aspect coming in, or a whole new storyline coming in and like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, you know. And that's what's really fascinating, because we cannot foresee, you know, that those aspects, those specifics we cannot foresee. And this is also what I've been perceiving, you know. I mean, I hardly look at the narrative on the stage, not narrative, but like, well, no, not narrative, but the story on the stage anymore. Like what I get that is trickling in without me going to the, like, looking there anymore is totally enough. But what I do get is that, you know, everything that was said, oh, okay, this is going to happen then, and then this is coming, you know, let's just say political, socioeconomic stage, you know, how it has been said, okay, A, B, and C, and this is how the plan is going to unfold. The plan to expose, disclose, and discover the, you know, all that inverted agenda. No, I don't see anything happening the way it was said that it was going to happen. And at the same time, I know it's happening. I know that it's happening because I, I just know, and it's the only thing that makes sense. And we are getting the feedback that it is happening, and it has to be happening because, you know, it's also happening within us, and that's how the energies are. It's just not happening the way that it was said it was going to happen. And the other thing I got about the solar flash is that we're in the middle of it. We are in the middle of it. And this whole idea, I mean, it does make sense that there is, at some point, there's a climax. There, at some point, the wheels, they turn at a certain velocity, and then there's that quantum leap into a different dimension, into a different, it's like the quantum leap is the bottom line that comes up, right? It's like we're standing on a whole new ground. We're standing on a whole new playing field. It shifts the playing field, and these are these quantum leaps, or yeah, let's just call them that. Shifting the entire playing field, and you know, a version of that may happen. Absolutely, I just can't imagine what it would look like, and at the same time, what I'm getting is that we're like completely in it now. And you know, who knows, maybe that solar flash, for some people, they won't even notice it. You know, and then other people will have this huge experience and say, oh wow, that was the solar flash. And yeah, okay.